What we mean here by interactive intrusion is it's unlike malware attack that depend on the deployment of such a malicious tool or a script. Interactive intrusion leverage the creativity here and problem-solving skills of human adversaries, where they use or they can use a living of land. They can use legitimate tools like from Microsoft, or they use PowerShell to do their malicious activities, where these individuals can mimic expected user and administrator behavior, and for sure it making it difficult for defenders like us to differentiate between what's legitimate user activity and what's cyber attack or malicious activity. As you can see here in 2023, CrowdStrike has observed a 60% year-over-year increase in the number of interactive intrusion campaigns. So here we are talking about a malware-free, almost a malware-free, with a 73 increase in the second half compared to 2022. Interactive intrusion by industry, the technology sector was the most frequently targeted industry, where CrowdStrike has observed interactive intrusion activity in 2023, in comparison with the continuing trend from 2022. The charts below reflect the relative frequency of intrusions in the top 10 industry verticals and in geographical regions. While we are talking about the cloud threats, as we are looking about the interactive intrusion by region, you know, in Africa and Middle East, they have 1% and 5% relatively, but we all know that most public cloud service providers like Microsoft, Amazon, whatever, they hosted their cloud or their data centers in Africa and Middle East, and it opens the door for many threats. And a lot of companies has invested in these cloud service providers worldwide, starting from Africa or starting from Middle East to worldwide, or in the data centers that is located in the Middle East or in Africa. Why the rise of cloud threats and why cloud threats? Here I would like to start by providing some context about or around what we are seeing these changes. As we all know, let's go back a bit. The pandemic, like the COVID-19, accelerated digital transformation across industries practically overnight, where this digital transformation is sweeping across many industries and it transformed how businesses operate, but it also introduced a new risk. You know, the speed of this shift due to this pandemic. And while this digital transformation has its benefits, it also has its sidelines, consequences from our security perspective. And attackers, for sure, they are opportunistic. When they see new areas of opportunity, they pounce. Let's take a look at some of key trends highlighted in CrowdStrike report. Here first, we see threat actors aggressively targeting cloud platforms. And here we are talking about almost the three leaders here, which Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. We see intrusions increasing over 75% last year, the 2023, comparing with 2022. And as you know, I know our focus is on Middle East and Africa, but as said, different businesses, they have different environments. It can be represented by on-premises, private cloud, and public cloud. It can be a complex environment. They have different forms or different sort of environments. It can be with different cloud service providers, and also they can host in different regions like Europe and US, or Europe and Africa. And as a result, for sure, Middle East and Africa, they are in the core of cloud service or all cloud services threats. What's more alarming here are attacks designed specifically for cloud workloads, are raised 110% or 110%. which is called the cloud conscious attacks increased by 110%, and the cloud agnostic increased by 60%, with 84% financially motivated from 22 to 23. What's mean here, or what we mean here by cloud conscious? Cloud conscious is the term that referring to a threat actor or an attacker who are aware of the ability to compromise cloud workloads and use this knowledge to abuse features unique to the cloud for their own purposes. What we mean by cloud agnostic, where threat actors either they are not aware or they aware they had compromised a cloud environment or did not take advantage of cloud features. And here our focus is on the cloud conscious, which mean the threat actor is aware that he's compromised a cloud workload. So it's targeted, his attack or her attack is targeted for cloud workloads. For example, the group called Scattered Spider, it's one of the threat actors for sure, was behind nearly a third of this activity. So one over three of this activity regarding cloud conscious attacks. And this shows for us how determined criminals are to exploit our growing reliance on the cloud. Here we can realize for sure the scale of cloud adoption opened a huge attack surfaces for all businesses. And it's no surprise for us for sure that CrowdStrike report showed jumps in endpoint and the cloud-focused incidents. Anatomy of e-crime interactive intrusion. Here we have a very important topic to discuss also. So continuing the theme about cloud or even on premises, we see first that data theft was without ransomware, encryption grew rapidly. So we see a lot of data theft even without ransomware, and the attackers send an email or leave a note that a company data is theft, and without taking any action, okay, and they need a ransom, and over 3 quarters over or recent 3 quarters, more victims has private or had private information posted to leak sites. We can see in the dark web a lot of information, private information and sensitive information related to specific persons, which is we can call the personal identifiable information, which can point out to the person itself and can identify a person. Stealing this sensitive data for extortion for sure proves a lot or proves a low effort and at the same time a high yield strategy. To gain better understanding of interactive intrusion, let's have a look of this illustration. The following timeline will illustrate the speed of a real-world hands-on attack. It's based on kill chain for sure, starting from the adversary taking initial access until the execution. Here we can see that interactive intrusion, where hackers can gain hands-on access inside victim networks, it jumped 73% as said. And once a breach, attackers moved through the system almost 20 minutes. So you can see from that brute force attack until it's being detected by Falcon. Falcon is one of the products for CrowdStrike. It's almost 20 minutes from the initial access until the execution. And this quicker lateral movement and this identity-focused tactics are rising to 75% of detections. For us, it's clear that adversaries are, for sure, they are sharpening and they are honing their skills according or comparing to the past years, where we can see that an APT or whatever can last or can persist in an environment for about 1 month or 2 months, maybe for 6 months. Here we can see that the speed of an attack from the foothold or to take the initial access until the execution. From our side, also we see that we have here a speed, and in the same time we have a ferocity of the cyber attack. It continue to accelerate as adversaries compress this time between the initial entry and how they lateral movement in the environment until it breach or compromise the environment or the entire environment. Also, the CrowdStrike threat report, they mentioned, this is on the side, they mentioned the rise of geopolitics that impacted the threat landscape, where they observed actors taking side through digital means and regional disputes like what's happening in the conflict between Israelis and Hamas and so on. And also they talk about the elections. Well, here we would jump into the how to adapt to this emerging threats. Attackers for sure are continuously adapting their tactics to exploit new opportunities every minute or every second, maybe. This brings us to an important cybersecurity principle, which is called, or what we call by us as cybersecurity professionals, is a layered defense strategy or defense in depth. In the early days, endpoint protection largely relied on antivirus software as a core to detect threats. Well, as we all know that antivirus, it uses pattern matching and some signatures. It can look for some strings in the malware, or it can look for some functions. However, we see that antivirus products nowadays could be easily evaded through encryption or obfuscation or any other techniques that antivirus alone could not catch up on. And this led us to the development to the endpoint protection. Here we are talking about the history from antivirus to the ADR, passing by the heuristic scanning, behavioral based, and different components that come into one package. So you can purchase an antivirus coming with a host intrusion prevention system, coming with DLP, coming with application whitelisting and blocklisting. But our focus here is the antivirus and the ADR, which is specifically focused on the execution of a malware or the detection of a malware. For sure, ADR leverages machine learning and AI, and they leverage for sure this ML or machine learning and AI to identify or to determine suspicious behavior regardless of the signatures. Things like abnormal processes and things like process execution, unauthorized credential use, lateral movement, they all can be flagged through the ADR. And even if the payload is unfamiliar or mimic some behavior of a malware, even if it is a legitimate process or legitimate program that is executed, even it's mimic, it is a malware, so it can be blocked. So here we talk about the history about antivirus and how it is updated or developed until it becomes the ADR, which the ADR for sure has, or it becomes the de facto. So before leaving the stage for our partners, the Stologics represented by Mr. Muhammad, in closing, I would like to mention, so what's beyond the EDR? While, as said, the in defense in depth strategy is important for sure to recognize that it has limitations, and for sure our endpoint is the last line of defense for us. So no matter how robust our protections are, the reality is sophisticated threats may still occasionally breach our perimeter. So what happens here if, despite our best or the best efforts, a ransomware infection does bypass endpoint defenses and take hold of a device? So here we are talking about what is what if the ADR is bypassed or evaded, and here we have a failure in the ADR detection. So what is beyond the ADR? This is where our next frontier of endpoint technology comes into play, and the recent innovations point for sure to new levels of resilience that can help survive even the worst case scenarios. Well, my colleague Muhammad Alayan uh, will explore some of these emerging solutions or recent innovations on the endpoint protection and how they aim to counter even advanced attacks. Well, Mr. Muhammad, I will leave the stage for you to talk about this recent innovation or recent technology that comes beyond the ADR.
Great. Thank you so much,
The stage
Abdurrahman,
is
for
yours,
the
Mr.
great.
Muhammad.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys can hear me well. So thank you so much for having me today. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be amongst you and have the chance to share our thoughts about what's truly beyond EDR. And it's absolutely the time to talk about what's beyond EDR because of the nature of attacks that we are witnessing happening. Like if you look at the attacks, the known attacks that happened in just the month of February, 29 days or 28 days that we had in February, I had the chance to look at more than 28 breaches. 18 of them were focused on access control, which means that the intruders managed to get all the first three phases that were described by Abdurrahman in one of his slides, or you can refer to them to these phases in the MITRE attack framework. It means that they managed the initial access, they managed to drop the files and tools. Some of them, they use even some fileless malware, and they managed to run scripts in these digital platforms, and then they reach to the point where they managed to get access to your Office 365 and get control of that. And many of them were not detected easily. Like, as I told you, I only witnessed 28 breaches. I'm sure that something more that has happened in the market. Some of them we know about them today, like the one that happened with United Health Group in the United States. The one probably didn't hear much about them, but they managed probably the majority of healthcare transactions in the US. Connections to pharmacies and connections to payments to doctors, schools, and stuff like that. And that was a massive ransomware attack. Many of the telco providers in our region were also compromised. Verizon in February this year were, I think, data from 63,000 employees were compromised. Bank of America, one of the third-party contractors, Bank of America, that has access to the digital platform provided by, the Bank of America digital platform, one of their subcontractors and third parties were compromised, leading to access to Bank of America data and many others. And those bring in a major challenge to cybersecurity professionals today. And that's where I start from where Abdurrahman ended, where he says we truly need to go beyond ADR. ADR has been in the industry for more than, 13 years now, 12 years. Gartner introduced ADR in 2012 officially, and probably the concept was probably there for a year or 2 years before it was officially introduced by Gartner. And at that time, it was a major disruption to the industry because it brought to our attention to the importance of moving on when it comes to endpoint protection from signature-based legacy style protection towards the ability to detect behaviors and build upon heuristic analysis and take it forward to behavioral analysis. And that's where we got to learn more about the MITRE attack and the techniques and details, tactics provided. And then we started learning in, and thanks to all of the endpoint protection technology providers in the industry that spent billions of dollars to enhance their detection capabilities, adding AI and machine learning that kind of stuff. Now it's been 10 years, and today's techniques and tactics and procedures used by ransomware are overcoming the capabilities, and like they're overreach, they're beyond the capabilities that we can get maximum with detection. Detection algorithms, whether they're supported with machine learning or any kind of capabilities, mathematically are incapable to give you 100% detection. There's no way that you can get that level of detection. And the challenge is that it's not the 100% achievement. It's not, we're not getting enough detection of today's ransomware and malware. And that's why we get a ransomware attack, a successful ransomware attack, probably every 11 seconds now. Today, we have more than 500,000 new pieces. Actually, the number is 560,000 new pieces of malware that are being pushed in the internet every single day. If you just Google how many new malware we get every single day, we get more than 500,000. If 1% or 0.5% of these new pieces of malware come with techniques and tactics and procedures that are not detected by today's detection tools, that's disastrous. It means that we have hundreds of these pieces of ransomware and malware lurking the internet. And if you were the unlucky customer that gets those ones pass by through a phishing email or through like opening a website that has malicious cookies in it or man in the middle and stuff like that, then that's a 100% success. That's a 100% success, no matter how good your EDR is, no matter how good your detection algorithms, whether it is the EDR only or you take it to the XDR where you look at the network traffic and you monitor your network elements also, and you correlate events you collect from the network devices with the data you collect from the endpoint. This is 100% success if you're the unlucky customer to get one of those passing by your digital infrastructure. So today, definitely, we are at a point where we need a disruption, another disruption, exactly like what happened with EDR when we had it in 2012. It did provide a disruptive method. It did provide a paradigm change in the way we protect endpoints. And when I say endpoints, and we all say endpoints in our industry, we're talking about the operating systems, which means that we would like to provide the operating system with the self-capability to protect itself by either detecting malicious behavior and then acting accordingly, blocking those malicious attacks, or by something different. We are at the stage today where attacks and techniques used are beyond the capabilities of detection. Most of the attacks that I witness every single day are for organizations that spend millions of dollars under network security, endpoint security, and cloud security. They spend millions of dollars. They do have the best of the best of the best next generation antivirus, next generation, and the EDR, and probably XDR. They've got all of the network controls in place, and yet they'll get compromised. And they get United Health Group. It's a humongous group. It's a huge group, multi-billion-dollar group, and they've got everything in place, and yet they were compromised by Black Cat, Noberus, if you know, they come with different names like Black Cat, Noberus, or I think Alpha 5, that's what they call themselves. And they managed to get access. They managed to get access to accounts. They managed to get credentials. Do you believe that? They managed to get credentials. So they do, those big customers, whether it's global customers or in our region, like even in countries, advanced countries in our region, some of the largest healthcare providers, some of the largest government organizations, some of the largest manufacturing utilities, one of the largest power distribution companies, they had their Hyper-V environment compromised, and they have multidiscipline attack, and they were struggling for 10 days. Those guys have everything in place. It's just, this is not enough. And that's why we need a disruption today. And what's happening today, I'm going to share my screen also, guys, just to walk you through the idea of why we need a disruption too. So let me just bear with me for a second. To double down on why we need a disruption today, let's look at what we have. The elements introduced by Abdurrahman a minute ago were either tools that try to protect your network pre to execution of malware, something that is proactive before T equals 0, before the ransomware starts hitting and causing damage, changing registry keys, interrupting processes, messing up the file system, or doing whatever it does. Those are proactive tools, and the star here is the next generation antivirus because it comes with the detection capabilities also. It comes with machine learning, thanks to CrowdStrike, thanks big time to Kaspersky, to many of the older players that managed to transform their old antivirus tools into next generation tools. And they're awesome. It's just they also depend on detection, and they have to have algorithms that try to monitor and detect, detection tools, ability to detect and enhance it with machine learning, AI, and stuff like that. And then we have the other side, on the right side here, where we get the EDR piece. And EDR piece is where we try to detect a compromise. In addition to detecting a behavior, we try to detect an actual compromise, IOCs, indicators of compromise. And that's the original definition of EDR. I know that EDR now is used broadly, like to cover everything in endpoint protection, but that's originally what EDR is. That's originally what EDR is. It's meant to detect. It's meant to detect indicators of compromise. And the time needed to detect and respond to the attack is what we call the dwell time, which also showed by Abdurrahman now. For 20 minutes, one of the attacks had to happen, where hackers managed to spend, to lurk your digital asset undetected or unstopped. And today, there are tools that can decrypt your entire hard disk in 20 seconds. So you can imagine what you can do with 20 minutes. Dwell time is the time needed, as per Gartner definition, is the time needed to detect, respond, and repair an attack. Repairing the attack is by going backwards to previous snapshots and trying to bring you back to the moment before you double-clicked on that malicious file or before that PowerShell command was provoked or anything else. The disruption we talked today about is none of that. Is detectionless. Is where we need a piece, we need an element on top of everything you see in this graph that's not detection-based, that's detection-less, because we have seen mathematically, and we've seen it from the attacks that happened in the last few years, detection can never provide you with enough protection today because of how sophisticated the attacks are. And that's where we bring in the concept of zero trust for endpoints. Zero trust is a big term in our industry. We have it with ZTNA, with cloud, as Abdurrahman said, and yeah, but how do we get it at the level of the operating system? How we get your operating system to not trust anything and yet not disrupt your business? And that's where we're seeing the disruption today. Today, the disruption is happening at the level of the kernel of your operating system, regardless on the about the products. We're not going to focus on. Let's talk about the technology. Today, we have a successful zero trust deployment, zero interruption, and real-time security provided capability. It provides capabilities to your operating system at the kernel level, where we intercept any call that goes down to the kernel, and the kernel is the core of your operating system. It is ring zero, if you remember from the operating system courses. It's the one that manages all of your critical resources, everything that is needed to manage your hardware and your critical systems, whether it's the network driver or the IO manager or file system driver, everything that represents the actual core and heart of your operating system. And what happens is that everything that runs on your platform, whether it's a good file or a bad file or unknown, and that's where the risk comes from, they all need to go down to the kernel of the operating system. Why? Because they need access to critical resources. And that's why today we're bringing the level of security of your endpoint to the kernel. We intercept every call that goes down to the kernel requesting a critical resource, and if it comes from unknown, it gets isolated at the level of the kernel. This is not sandboxing. This is not fake environment. This is not operating above the rootkits and the admin privileges. No, this is actually operating at the level of the kernel. That's where we don't detect. We welcome the malware at the kernel level, and we kill the malware exactly at t=0, not before the attack. It's not a pre-execution. It's not a proactive tool. Not after the compromise. It's not a detection tool. It's exactly at t=0, and that's where we got. That's why now everyone talks about real-time security, blocking the attack as it happens. As the CEO of Palo Alto said last year, this is the holy grail of cybersecurity, which is real-time security, which is blocking the attack at t=0 exactly as it hits. This is your last line of defense that you need today if you want to have enough security for your digital assets. So yes, we are witnessing today a disruptive technology for your endpoints. Remember, your endpoint is your end game. Remember that your operating system needs to be equipped with what helps it to protect itself. It needs the abilities and capabilities of not trusting anything, which is zero trust, but yet not interrupting your business, because zero trust alone could be disastrous. It could stop legit applications. It could interrupt work operations. It could mess up your daily work and get your end users like mad at your operation, because it's going to block them. Zero trust alone for your operating systems is not enough. It has to be accompanied with abilities and techniques and tactics to help you not interrupt the business and be able to at t=0, which is exactly at the time when the malware hits. When you block at t=0, do you know what happens? You get a zero dwell. So the dwell time needed by detection tools like CrowdStrike and SentinelOne and everyone else, which is needed to detect, respond, and yet repair the damages happening from the attack. Today, they vary from 17 days to 200 days. And the number 200 days did not come from nothing. It came from the attack that happened, I think, a couple of years ago for the Colonial Line attack. Like 18 months ago, the hackers managed to stay in the Colonial Line network for more than 200 days undetected. 200 days, and they managed then to mess up their SolarWinds and Microsoft Power BI. And then they had a ransom, and they got paid $5 million for that. So our message is that today we truly need a disruptive technology to protect our endpoints. Two, your endpoints are your end games. This is your last mile of defense. If your network controls fall down, your endpoint and the operating system on that endpoint must be equipped with, makes it capable of protecting itself. Detection is a big thing of that. Detection tools, EDRs, next generation antivirus, and the whole stack, firewalls and everything, the whole stack we have on endpoint protection protects you from 97% of the attacks we witness today. But the remaining 3% are causing a successful ransomware attack every 11 seconds as we speak. A couple of days ago, one of the major telcos, one of the most advanced telco providers in our regions, were compromised, despite the fact they spent billions of dollars on their detection tools and probably hundreds of millions of dollars on their detection tools and network controls and all of that. So you need the last mile of protection, and your last mile protection today is kernel level protection. It's kernel level API isolation. It's where you get the ability to integrate with the kernel through APIs. We call them kernel filters now, to allow your protection tools to intercept any call that goes down to the kernel, detectionless, without detecting anything, absolutely detectionless, welcoming the ransomware and malware. And if it's coming from unknown, we don't trust it. We isolate it at the kernel level. If it tries to cause harm, we kill it at T equals 0, zero dwell time. Gartner now is calling this technology zero dwell containment. Frost and Sullivan are calling it zero dwell time technology. I don't want to take longer because I want to keep space for questions and answers. It is definitely time for disruption. Your endpoint is your end goal game. No matter what you do, layering up your security controls at the network level will not help. With cloud, as Abdurrahman mentioned, your user is outside your premises. Your servers and applications are outside your premises. Your connectivity is not controlled, is not owned by you. When you use the cloud, the worst thing that happens to you is ownership of controls. You don't have ownership of controls. So you need to bring that great capability to the endpoints to be able to protect themselves. I personally believe that you even have to take it further steps, where you even work at the runtime of applications and bring self-defense capabilities to the applications. RASP, like runtime application self-protection, anything at runtime and auto run and all of that. I'll go back to you, Abdurrahman, and let's have a session with the attendees. We'd like to keep it interactive, guys. If you have questions, when I share your thoughts, we'll be happy to hear from you.
Well, thank you very much for this or introducing for this recent innovation or recent technology about the zero dwell containment and the kernel level virtualization, which is very interesting, and it's add one more layer to our layers among of network layers, host layers, whatever. So we can, or we don't have such a single point of failure about a layer. We have almost add a new layer, which is an advanced technology that's contained at T equals 0 any threat that can target any host or any endpoint. So guys, do you have any questions for Muhammad or for me about this topic? We are all ears.
Just want to add also that we can also demonstrate that technology to you guys if you're interested or want to have a detailed one-on-one discussion to have a deep dive on how this technology operates and functions. And we'll be happy to go through it. It's a disruptive technology that brings in a major shift, a paradigm and mindset shift on how we address endpoints. I've seen it talking to lots of CISOs and others. Today, guys, do you know what happens? The ultimate goal, the number one goal when you run any security operation is what? Is to block threats exactly as they're, hopefully before, but at least exactly as they're happening. That's the ultimate goal. Everything else is accessory. we use threat intelligence, and we do have detection tools, and we have policies, and we have endpoint protection to block USB memory sticks and screen sharing and certain files. And these are all accessories if you get compromised. Your ultimate goal, remember, is, and this is a mind shift, I see it, I witness it with CISOs now, is to block the attack. That's the ultimate goal. If one single attack happens, the entire investment is gone. That's why I see that major shift. I see a major shift now in how CISOs are handling their security operation also, which is absolutely knowing what really matters. Focus on your truly valuable digital asset. The truly valuable digital assets, you've got to have all the techniques and tools and practices to protect them. 3x2 by 1 backup, level API isolation, policies, access policies, zero trust, minimum access privileges, everything. My last thoughts is, one, today's challenges are beyond imagination. I see a paradigm shift on how our CISOs and security managers today are managing their security operations. Your ultimate goal is not to be hit, period. Everything else is an accessory. Find your most valuable digital assets and make sure that they're equipped with zero trust, with zero threat isolation, with kernel level API protection, because detection is not enough today, is not enough. I can show you a threat map now that shows you attacks that are lurking the internet. Like if you go to threatmap.accidium.com, it shows you attacks happening as we speak for 3 and 4 days, not detected by any single vendor we have in the industry. Those attacks, you will have the hash keys. You can take them to VirusTotal and search them and learn about them. If you're unlucky and one of those attacks pass by any of your digital assets, that is 100% success of the ransomware.
Thank you.
And
Thank
again,
you.
back to you guys if you
Thank you, Mohammed, for your time and for joining us. Thank you, Histologics, for sure. Well, as said, endpoint protection must be at our or at the core of our cybersecurity program or cybersecurity strategy. And guys, if you have any question, please ask, and you can contact us on www.edgeevolve.com for any inquiries, for a demonstration, or for a proof of execution anytime, and we are all ready to serve you and to have this one-to-one conversation about this recent technology, how it can protect you more. So thank you for joining us.